Hey everybody, welcome to Crosswinds. We're so glad that you decided to join us today. Here in just a couple of minutes, we're gonna spend some time in worship. And I wanna tell you, last week when Chris did this welcome, he encouraged you all right where you are to stand up. So last week, my family is sitting in our living room and we're watching just like you are now. And we hear Chris, who's sitting in the chair about 3 feet from me, say that we're all gonna stand up. And he says, and my family's gonna stand up too. And I look over at him like, all right, I guess we have to stand up now. And so we all kind of begrudgingly stood up, and I will admit it felt a little awkward for just about 10 seconds. But after that, something really did change. I felt probably for the first time most like I do when I'm actually in church on a Sunday morning with all of you. So if I could encourage you one more time, no matter where you're at, even if it feels a little awkward, would you stand as we worship together?
Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. With every breath, God, I need you. With every step, Lord, I need you. Sing my one defense. 'Cause you're my one defense and my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. I will sing of your goodness, I will sing of your love. Though the seasons come quickly, you have always been enough. Though the night may get dark, though the waiting seems long, you have always been faithful to remind me of your love. And you are good. In the morning I'll sing, you are good. In the evening I'll sing, you are good. You are good to me. You have always been patient. You have always been kind. You're consistent through the ages. Oh, what a friend of mine. I remind my soul to bless you, standing firm upon your truth, knowing you cannot be shaken. 'Cause I've seen what you can do. Oh, you are good. In the morning I'll sing, you are good. In the evening I'll sing, you are good. You are good to me. Good to me. You keep on getting better. 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 Yes, you do. You keep on getting better. 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 When my heart is weak, you keep on getting better. You keep on getting better. Oh, you keep on getting better. You keep on getting better. Oh, you keep on getting better. 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 And you are good. In the morning I'll sing, you are good. In the evening I'll sing, you are good. You are good to me. Sing this out. You are good. In the morning I'll sing, you are good. In the evening I sing, you are good. You are good to me. Oh! Keep on getting better. Keep on getting better. You keep on getting better. You keep on getting better. Remind my heart. You keep on getting better. Keep on getting better. Keep on getting better. Keep on getting better. God, remind us of that truth. When seasons change, when it's dark, when there's chaos, and when we're distracted, God, that you are good. Good at all times. It's a goodness we can trust in. It's a goodness that we can plant our flag in. You're faithful. So God, our trust is in you and we love you. Amen.
Did you know the longest word in the English dictionary is pneumono-ultramicroscopic silico-volcanoconiosis, consisting of 45 letters? It's a lung disease, in case you were wondering. The average person speaks 16,000 words per day. The longest printed sentence in an English language novel is 13,955 words, written by Jonathan Coe. The shortest story ever written is 6 words long, authored by Ernest Hemingway, with a total of 25 letters, which happens to be 11 letters less than it takes to write out 13,955. During the Civil War, Edward Everett delivered a speech at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania that consisted of over 13,500 words and lasted for 2 hours. Abraham Lincoln followed it up with 268 words in 2 minutes that gave newfound hope to a bloodied nation, and is considered one of the greatest speeches in American history. On August 28, 1963, a Baptist minister from Atlanta, Georgia, spoke 1,578 words that changed the course of a nation. 28 years before that, an idealistic European prime minister's words were instrumental in changing the course of the world. Words can define a vision. No matter how sinister the vision might be. Some words are by mothers. Others by monsters. But do our words matter? Words that build up, or words that demoralize? Words that challenge, or words that excuse? Words that unite, or words that tear apart? Do they matter? Is anyone listening? Or are they just words?
Well, I think we would all agree that words play a significant role in all of our relationships. And words can run the whole gamut of being kind to being mean. I know for me, just in the last 24 hours, I have heard come out of my mouth these words: "Thank you so much for making those muffins, they're delicious." And these words: "Can you just leave me alone right now? I get 12 more minutes of time alone." So we know that words impact those around us. And so that's why we're taking a whole week in this series to talk about how words not only impact our relationships, but they can communicate how much we love each other. Chris is gonna come in just a little bit and talk about how there are certain types of words, and they're not necessarily the ones you think, that can communicate love in the best way. Well, hey, it was so great to see so many of you come out last Saturday and Sunday to donate rice and beans for our Neighbor's Closet initiative. For you to go out of your way to buy that, to bring it here, it was so encouraging for us to watch car after car come up to the parking lot and unload these gifts that were practical, but are really gifts of love. We've been partnering with East Bay Agency for Children for a while now, and we will continue to have another donation, so watch for that coming up in June. Well, another way that we are seeing so much generosity from you, our Crosswinds family, is the way that you continue to give to Crosswinds. So we want to let you know, as we have, that there are a few different ways that you can give. You can give by texting the number you see on your screen. You can give online through our website. And as always, you can mail in directly to the campus if that's easiest for you. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for the ways you've been faithful in giving. Well, as we again turn our focus on what we're talking about today, I want to invite you to pray with me. And as we do, I want to remind you too, if you need prayer in any specific way, you can contact us through email at prayer@crosswindschurch.org, or you can call the number that you see on the screen. Let us know how we can be praying for you, and let us know if you want someone to call you back and actually pray with you. All right, would you pray with me right now? God, we are thankful to be together, even if together looks a little different these days. We're thankful to be focusing on how to better show love to the people we're with and the people that we're not with right now. So in this service, would you speak clearly? Would you speak in ways that we will be able to apply your love to every relationship in our life? Thank you for how we're continuing to see you, regardless of what else is going on. We're thankful and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey, don't write yourself off yet. It's only in your head you feel left out and looked down on. Just try your best, try everything you can, and don't you worry what they tell themselves when you're away. Just take some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright. Hey, you know they're all the same. You know you're doing better on your own, so don't buy it. Live right now, just be yourself. It doesn't matter if it's good enough for someone else. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright. Just take some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright. Just do your best, do everything you can, and don't you worry what their bitter hearts are gonna say. It just takes some time, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Just take some time.
So one of the things I've been doing to fill a little bit of time during the shelter in place is I have been trying to learn Spanish. I took a couple of years of Spanish in high school, never really used it. I can't say that what I took really stuck with me, but now I have found this app called Duolingo. Have you heard of Duolingo? It basically teaches you certain Spanish words and phrases and how to use them in a sentence, and I think that it is starting to work because as I walk around and I see things, I find myself saying the Spanish word that goes with them. The section that I'm in right now, it teaches you words for family, like sons and daughters and parents and grandparents. Like last week, I learned mi abuelo means my grandfather. Mis hijas means my daughters. Tu esposa means your wife. I'm getting a little bit of the family stuff down. And then this week, I'm learning preferences. Like if I say, me gustan mis hijas, ellos son simpáticas, it means I like my daughters, they are very nice. Speaking of which, my oldest daughter, who has taken like 6 years of Spanish, is dying right now watching this. She hates it when I try to speak Spanish in public. So that I am doing this, and there are thousands of people watching, it is bad. Right now, Quinn is mortificada. The best part is shelter in place for her, not having to be out in public with me trying to speak Spanish. But that is a tangent. The other thing I've learned is how to say that you love something. Me encanto estos pantalones verdes. I love these green pants. A mi madre le encanta viajar. My mom loves to travel. Encanta or me encanta means I love. Well, what I've come to realize is that this phrase me encanta, it's what you use when it comes to things like pizza, but it is not what you would use when it comes to a person. There's a different phrase when you want to tell a person that you love them, that you really love them, te amo. Now, Duolingo has not taught me that one yet. I just know it because Andrea likes me to use it every once in a while. Te amo, I love you. And the great thing about Duolingo is it can teach you 23 different languages. You just select the one you want to work on and you go to town. And I don't know at what point they do teach I love you, but my guess is some of you already know how to say I love you in a variety of languages. In French, it's je t'aime. In Greek, it's agapo. In Italian, it's ti amo, a lot like Spanish. In American Sign Language, it is, or this. Either one is acceptable. And of course, in English, it's I love you. And we think that this is one of the most important things you can say to show love to someone. In fact, we think that this is so important that we ought to reserve it for people that we really love. When I was a high school kid or even a college kid and I was dating, I remember the delicate dance of saying I love you to whatever girl that I was seeing. I love you was like the pinnacle of having feelings for someone. You would never say that early in a relationship. Early in a relationship, you would say, I like you. And then as things got more serious, you would say to somebody, I really like you. And then as things progressed even further in the relationship, you would start to feel more and you'd notice this feeling and think to yourself, maybe it's love. But then the Van Halen song would come on the radio and you'd go, wait, how do I know when it's love? You weren't sure, so you knew it wasn't wise to say it. So instead you'd say things like, I could see myself loving you. Or one of my favorites, I'm falling in love with you. I'm falling. Like I'm not in love with you yet, but the process has started. And if things keep going the way they are, you never know. Love might just be right around the corner. And again, the reason for all of this, it was because those three words were like the pinnacle. You don't say I love you until you've arrived at love, until you're ready to walk down the aisle. Because those three magic words, nothing could express love more powerfully than those three words. Which is why today I think that many of us think that we're good at telling people we love them, the people we do love, when really we're not as good as we think. I've noticed a problem, and it's that many of us, me included, we think we're good at telling the people around us that we love them, expressing words of love, showing people we love them through what we say, because we say, I love you. I love you is the pinnacle, and I say it all the time. Look at me, I say it every day. I say it at night before my kids go to bed, to my wife, to my parents, to my coworkers. I am a love machine. I say I love you. It doesn't get more loving than that. Those are the most loving words in the English language. I think lots of us think that way. In the meantime, people in our lives, especially people who need love shown to them through our words, they have found that our words have stopped working to make them feel loved. You have people in your life right now, like your family, your spouse, your kids, your parents, your friends, your coworkers. You have people who need to sense that you love them. They need to know it. People that you are with and people you can't be with right now, but you're with in other ways, Zoom meetings and phone calls. And some of those people are wired that the way that they feel loved is to hear it spoken to them in the form of words. And remember, we said 2 weeks ago that the challenge is to love people their way, not your way. And everybody's got a different way. Well, Andrea spoke last week, and she said that some people, the way that they know they're loved is when others do something for them, when they serve them, when they meet their needs, take something off their plate. And this week, I want to tell you, there's another kind of person, the kind who needs love spoken to them. But if you think that you can meet their love needs or fill their love tank by simply saying, I love you, that will be woefully inadequate. And there are some other words that, believe it or not, are more important than I love you, that must be said. There are words stronger than I love you, and we see them in Jesus, and I want to show them to you today. In fact, can I tell you that Jesus, arguably the most loving person who ever lived, never said, I love you. He never said it to his disciples or anyone else, at least that we see recorded in the Bible. Of course, he showed love thousands of ways, most significantly by going to the cross in our place. But those words, I love you, we don't see him ever say those. And I say that to you, not to say that I love you doesn't matter, but to say there are words even more powerful, and I want to show them to you today through Jesus, because you have people in your life who need to hear those other three words. In fact, before we look at them, can you just think real fast, who is that person in your life that might best feel loved when the words of love are spoken to them? Let me ask it this way. Do you have somebody you know who's often needing an affirming conversation with you? What I mean is, like, they schedule time for you to just sit and talk together. In fact, it always seems to you they're looking for you to say something. It's very likely, it's possible, that person needs love shown to them through your words. And real quickly, with the rest of our time, I'm going to show you 3 ways that Jesus spoke love more powerfully than I love you. And as you're thinking of that person, maybe start assessing to what degree you do or say these things that we see Jesus say. Okay, the first is in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5, Jesus begins what is arguably the most popular, most famous sermon anybody's ever given, sitting on a mountainside with crowds of people who've all come to hear Jesus, and he opens up with these incredibly loving lines. You ready? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now I'm going to skip a little bit, otherwise this is like 9 verses. So verse 10, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. Okay. Jesus opens this sermon looking out at the crowd, and he has this message specifically to those who are down. Again, poor in spirit, in mourning, people who are meek or persecuted. Here's the message. Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is yours, and you will be comforted, and you will inherit the earth. And I just want you to imagine for a second if you were there that day and you were the poor in spirit or the meek or the persecuted, the slandered, and you went to hear Jesus speak and you were needing to hear words of life and words of love. Imagine for a second if Jesus instead said to you, blessed are the poor in spirit, I love you. Blessed are the persecuted, those who've been insulted, te amo. I mean, you would think that's nice. Jesus loves me, this I know, but you would think, what am I supposed to do with that? See, Jesus here, he does so much more than just say, I love you. He shows his love through using words of encouragement. words of encouragement. See, sometimes one of the types of words that's stronger than I love you is a word of encouragement. What he's saying to each of these people is, have hope. This will end. Be encouraged. This is going to end. And sometimes that is way more powerful than I love you. You know what the word encourage means? It means to inspire courage in someone. Think about that. Everybody has an area in their life where they feel a little bit insecure, right? Where they lack some sort of courage. And that lack of courage can keep somebody from accomplishing all the wonderful things that they would like to do. See, the potential in your kids or your friends or your parents, your spouse, the latent potential to do wonderful things, meaningful things, it is there within them. And what if what they're waiting for is someone to inspire courage in them that gets them through their insecurity? Dr. Larry Crabb, he tells the story of something that happened in a church that he attended when he was much, much younger. In that church, it was customary that young men were expected to participate in the communion services by standing up and praying out loud in front of everyone. And feeling the pressure of the expectation of that, he, who had a problem with stuttering, he stood up to pray. And he tells the story that his prayer was incredibly confused. He remembers thanking the Father for hanging on the cross and praising Christ for triumphantly bringing the Spirit from the grave. It was just bad and theologically messy. And when he was finished, he vowed he would never again speak or pray out loud in front of a group. So at the end of the service, not wanting to meet any of the church elders who might feel led to come up and correct his theology, he made his way straight for the door. But before he could get out, an older man named Jim caught him. And Larry Crabb prepared himself for this really long, difficult correction he was about to get. But instead, he found himself listening to these words. Larry, there's one thing I want you to know. Whatever you do for the Lord, I am behind you 1,000%. Larry, there's one thing I want you to know. Whatever you do for the Lord, I am behind you 1,000%. So Larry Crabb writes in his book, even as I write these words, my eyes fill with tears. I have yet to tell that story to an audience without at least mildly choking. Those words were life words. They had power. They reached deep into my being. And see, Crosswinds, sometimes what is way more powerful than I love you is to see a struggling person and inspire courage in them with words of encouragement. So, since right now you are thinking of someone who might most experience love when somebody shows it through words, how are you doing when you see that person fail or struggle? How are you doing at loving through inspiring courage in them? Let me show you another way that Jesus showed love through his words. There's this story of a time where Jesus is spending the afternoon at the house of this man that the Bible identifies as Simon the leper. It says that Jesus was reclining at his table. And this is in Mark 14. It says, while he was there, this woman came in with a jar of very expensive perfume, and she broke the jar, and she started pouring the perfume over his head. And some of the people who were present started saying, what? We could have sold this perfume and given money to the poor. This is a waste. And the word the Bible uses is rebuked. They rebuked her. So check out what Jesus says, verse 6. Leave her alone, said Jesus. Why are you bothering her? She's done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you'll always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you'll not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare me for my burial. And now, check this out, verse 9. Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. And what Jesus does here very publicly is he expresses appreciation. He uses words of appreciation. He looks to this woman and he says, thank you. Psychologist William James says the deepest need any human will ever have is this need to feel appreciated. That there is something in every one of us that needs to be recognized for having brought something good into the world, right? That the people around us, that their lives are more enjoyable because we exist, that we're not a burden, but that we're a blessing. And I'll tell you, I love you does not say that the way that I appreciate you for ... does. Not too long ago, I read that Douglas Conant, who used to be the CEO of Campbell's Soup, I read that he wrote at least 30,000 thank you notes to employees over the course of his 10-year career. He would commit 1 hour every single day to writing thank yous, which he had to try really hard to put in his calendar. This is a busy Fortune 500 CEO. All right, here's what he said. He said, most senior executives develop the skill set that is largely based around critical thinking. They get really good at critical thinking. They tend to really develop that muscle of trying to critique things more than compliment them. And so he put it on his calendar to express words of appreciation. Okay, I asked you earlier to think of a person in your life who might need love shown to them through words. Like that's their way of receiving love. How have you been at expressing very specific appreciation to them? Not just saying, I love you, but expressing thanks. Okay, there's a third way that Jesus verbally spoke his love to people. More powerful words, stronger than I love you. Let me show it to you. It's in Luke 7, all right? Jesus enters this town, Capernaum, and before he and the disciples can walk 1 block, a centurion sends a group of the village elders to go find Jesus. A centurion was like the officer in the Roman army, and he sends this group to Jesus to deliver a message. And the message is this: my servant is sick, he's about to die, and I've heard of you, Jesus. I've heard what you do for people. So would you come to where we are, and would you heal my servant? So Jesus agrees to go. And he follows the town elders who are leading him to the centurion and the sick servant. And just as he's about to get to his house, some friends of the centurion come running out with another message. Again, it's from the centurion himself. And he says, Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That's why I didn't even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and this one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. In other words, Jesus, you can just order him well, and he'll be healed. Okay, you know where this is going. Without even seeing him, Jesus heals the servant. And that is the story that we tell all the time when we read this, the story of Jesus healing without even having to see a guy. But I want you to look at what Jesus says right before he does it. What Jesus says about the centurion who had such faith that he didn't even have to let Jesus into his house. Verse 9, when Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him. And turning to the crowd following him, he said to them, I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel. I love that it says Jesus was amazed at this guy. Can you imagine doing something that amazes Jesus? But look at what Jesus does in response. In front of a huge group of people, it's as a crowd, Jesus expresses admiration. Jesus says, wow, did you see the faith of Joe the centurion? I've never seen anything like this. I really admire, in fact, I want everybody to know, I admire what this guy just did. And sometimes what expresses love even better than I love you is saying positive things about someone publicly. There's another time that Jesus does this with John the Baptist, although this one, Jesus talks about him when he's not even there. But again, positive words. This is in Matthew 11, verse 11. Truly I tell you, among those born of women, there's not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. John the Baptist wasn't even there to hear him say that. But how loved do you think he felt when John the Baptist later found out that Jesus was walking around telling everybody how great he was? Pretty cool. There's a story of a junior high boy who was always in trouble at school. This kid was just a consistent troublemaker. So when the parents of the junior high boy received one more call to come in and meet with his teacher and the principal, they knew what was coming. So the teacher sat down with the boy's father. And he said, she said, thanks for coming. I wanted you to hear what I have to say. And the father just crossed his arms and he waited, just thinking about what defense that was going to be used this time, right? But then the teacher proceeded to go down a list of 10 things, 10 positive affirmations of the junior high troublemaker. And when she finished, the father said, all right, and what else? Let's hear all the bad things. And the teacher said, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. So that night when the father got home, he repeated the conversation to his son. And not surprisingly, almost overnight, His son's attitude and behavior changed dramatically, all because a teacher publicly admired him. And your kids, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your coworkers, your teammates, you have someone in your life who needs to hear that you are doing that about them. They need to hear that you admire them behind their back. Because it's not you telling them, I love you, that will make them feel loved. I mean, that's good, but it's not enough. And it's not what Andrea spoke about last week, you serving them, that will make them feel that. In fact, this kind of person will just feel guilty when you serve them. They'll feel obligated to have to pay you back. No, they need to hear words of encouragement from you that inspire courage in them, words of appreciation, and words of admiration. And that when you're not admiring them to their face, that you're admiring them to others when they're not around. So, the challenge I give you this week is to do that for these people in your life. Who in your life do you think is a words type person? They receive love through words toward them, about them. What if you made a concerted effort this week to start expressing those 3 types of words? Because some words are stronger than I love you.